Black parents, we need to have an uncomfortable conversation because sometimes what we think might actually be protecting our kids is really exposing them to more harm. Now, after hearing that story about Nolan, the young black boy who went on a boat trip with his all white friends, but he was the only one who didn't return. And now a lot of black parents are asking some hard questions. Because for generations, black families were told the goal is simple: move to what they call a better neighborhood, get into what they call a better school district, put your child in better opportunities. But honestly, at some point, we got to ask, better according to who? Because what is the price of a better zip code if your child is constantly fighting to prove that they belong in it? What's the price if they start believing that being accepted is the same thing as being protected? And this is where the conversation is going to get uncomfortable. Some of our kids grew up thinking America was post-racial because their friend group was diverse. They thought because somebody invited them over, laughed with them, played sports with them, that meant that those people understood their experience. Friendship doesn't automatically mean awareness, and proximity doesn't automatically mean protection. And parents, I want to tell you, this is not about telling your children who they can and cannot be friends with. This is about making sure that your child understands who they are before the world tries to tell them who they are. Because sometimes we're so busy trying to get our child a seat at somebody else's table, we forget to ask what they had to give up to get there. Better schools mean nothing if your child loses their confidence. Better neighborhoods mean nothing if your child feels isolated. Protect your babies. Talk to your babies. Because the goal was never for our children to just survive in these spaces. The goal was for them to know their worth, no matter what space they choose to walk into.
Well, and this is why I hate breaking news. About an hour ago, authorities came out to say that the body that was found off of Horn Island was not the body of Nolan Xavier Wells. Now they have retracted that statement. It may possibly be Nolan. It looks like it is. From what I'm hearing on Facebook from his family, it is Nolan. And also the coroner's office. Just moments ago, the coroner's office said that DNA testing will officially confirm the identity, but that there's no reason not to believe that it's not him. They are now saying that they believe the body that was found off of Horn Island is the body.
This is the exact reason I tell my kids, friend or no friend, you can't trust anybody. How is it possible for a group of friends to go to Mississippi's Horn Island, but when they come back home, they come back without somebody that they went with? And they're going to say race ain't play a part. You see everybody in this picture right here. Tell me what looks different. Tell me. You had an 18-year-old accomplished football star, Nolan Wells, goes to Mississippi Horn Island with his friends on the 4th of July, and then he turns up missing. Mind you, all of his friends make it home safe. And the person that went with them, Nolan Xavier Wells, he's missing. And nobody has nothing to say about that. You have his so-called friends saying that they don't remember anything. They don't remember seeing what happened to him. Mind you, they have pictures on the boat. Mind you, they have pictures together. But nobody knows what happened to him. Now you got the Coast Guard, sheriff deputies, Marine units, and multiple agencies searching for him right now. They're searching the waters, searching surrounding areas, trying to figure out what happened. They're also saying that the last time he was seen with a team. They're also saying that they found his phone, but they didn't find him. What team do you know right now would leave his phone behind? Tell me that. But you see how all of this sounds? This is why disappearances like this and places like this always leave people questioning. If you spend time looking into missing person cases like this, then you already know what may be the outcome. Do you understand how this young man's parents has to feel? They just want their kid back. We definitely need to spread the word about this. We need some answers. This shit is crazy.
Business, but I want you to know that we know that they killed that boy. He was the only black gentleman in a group of 4 boys in Mississippi, and an altercation broke out just as Nolan was talking to a female, talking to a girl, excited about talking to a girl. How much you want to bet nobody liked that he was in Mississippi talking to a white girl? Now, I'm not going to pretend that I know the racist experience. I'm not going to pretend I know the black experience, but I know the same thing that I knew when Tamla Horsford died, and that is that a single black human does not go out or into a group of all white people, come out dead, nobody knows what fucking happened, and it's not their fault. There is a reason they say don't play in the snow by yourself, it's cold. And that's all I'm going to say. I just want to say that I am terribly, terribly sorry to his family, and I am terribly, terribly sorry about what happened to him. And we all know they fucking did it. And I want you to know that we know they didn't. A grown black man does not go out with a bunch of white fucking boys in Mississippi, hear that he's talking to a white girl, he disappears, nobody knows.
This is so sad. What exactly happened to Nolan? This is painful. I'm not going to talk too much in this video.
A family's desperate search for their teen son ends in tragedy after a water search involving 8 law enforcement agencies ends in heartbreak. Investigators believe they found the body of 18-year-old Nolan Wells in the water after he went missing from his friends during a crowded 4th of July boat celebration at Horn Island on the Mississippi coast. The coroner said the remains matched the description of Nolan's appearance, and there were no immediate signs of physical injury. Friends and family remember Wells as a standout athlete with a big heart. Nolan's mother described him as a special soul. Family and friends and I are absolutely devastated. My heart is broke for our sweet son who was always willing to cheer and uplift others, she wrote on Facebook. The Jackson County Sheriff says that no foul play is suspected. He declined to elaborate on how Nolan became separated from his friends group. A member of the volunteer rescue group, United Cajun Navy, spoke to several people who were at Horn Island, and they described it as a crowded with boats and swimmers, many who had been drinking, and he said he believes that strong rip currents could have posed a risk.
But this is too sad.
I went to a predominantly white high school and a predominantly white college, and I can tell you right now that what happened to Nolan, okay, what happened to him was not an accident. I think we all know what happened. And here's the thing, is like, this is why I always say you cannot be the only one. And I'm going to speak to my Africans real quick, and even just my immigrant community, because we do this thing a lot. Whenever we want to acquiesce and get wealth and increase in our status, the first thing we do is we run and get into proximity of whiteness. And when you take your dark-skinned kids or your cultured kids and
Black people don't hang themselves from trees, and people don't leave islands where they were vacationing when one of their friends goes missing. The Nolan Wells case is far from an isolated incident. Nolan Wells was lynched, and he's not even the only one to make headlines in the past month, only because the victims' families were allowed and ensured that their loved ones received attention. Over the weekend of Juneteenth this year, less than a month ago, Tania Nicole Miller was found hanging from a tree in Miami. Juliana Nazita, only 16 years old, was found hanging on church grounds in North Carolina in May, and police ruled it a suicide. Kyle Basinga, only 21 years old, was found hanging in Georgia in February. Police also ruled that a suicide. Trey Reed was found hanging on the Delta State University campus in September 2025. His murder was also ruled a suicide. Just 1 year before Trey Reed, another lynching that made headlines was that of Javion McGee in North Carolina. He was also found hanging from a tree, and it was also ruled a suicide. And the Nolan Wells case reminded me immediately of Tamla Horsford, who was found dead in 2018 after a sleepover with her white friends. It was ruled an accident, but she had blunt force trauma. These are just the cases that we know about. It's 2026 and we have lynchings. It's 2026 and we have slavery through prison labor. The United States just rang into 150 years. Yeah, that's nothing. And on the same day that the US rang into 50, this photo was taken in DC. These Patriot Front members are the same people whose ancestors murdered, enslaved, and oppressed Black people on the very same soil that these victims' bodies were found. The victims that I've talked about today, many of their ancestors survived that very same evil not that long ago. We owe it to all of them to say their names and not let their stories go unheard. And we owe it to history to be honest about the vile depravity that human beings are capable of. Black people who were enslaved were cannibalized. Their skin was made into leather, it was made into furniture and accessories. Their teeth made into dentures, their babies used as alligator bait. That all just happened. And the horrors continue to happen at the hands of white supremacist murderers everywhere in the year 2026. And I wish I could say that we could be surprised in addition to horrified. Say their names.
A body has been found in the search for the football player Nolan Xavier Wells, an 18-year-old who disappeared during the 4th of July celebrations. Nolan Wells, 18, vanished after a boat trip with friends on Saturday and was last seen around 3 p.m. talking to a girl on the north end of Horn Island, a popular barrier island about 10 miles off the Mississippi Gulf Coast. The United Cajun Navy and the Jackson County Sheriff's Department said the body has not yet been identified. The discovery was made around 8:45 a.m. Monday morning where Wells disappeared. Nolan's mother wrote in a post, "His father Elmore and I are not okay. We have so many questions. Our hearts are breaking. We keep waiting for Nolan to walk through that door with his beautiful smile and a joke, of course. We just pray our son is alive and safe. Again, we are looking for any pictures, video footage around 4:30 p.m. or later." Christine Wansley Wells' mother shared more information and photos on a series of social media posts. She said he was separated from his phone, so tracking isn't an option. She also says, "His father and I have his cell phone, so for friends who are seeing his location, it's because we have it. They're still trying to determine when he left the island and who he was with. Anyone who has seen Wells or has photos or videos that may show him is encouraged to contact the Jackson County Sheriff's Office." She says her inbox has been overwhelmed with messages and asked people to reach out only if they have information about her son. The United Cajun Navy shared that it's still actively engaged in the search, and out of respect for Nolan's family and the integrity of the investigation, they will not be commenting on search developments or release information before the appropriate law enforcement agencies provide an official update.
So for anyone who hasn't heard about this story, an 18-year-old college football player named Nolan Wells went missing after attending a 4th of July trip to Horn Island in Mississippi with a group of his white friends. According to investigators, the group arrived to Horn Island together on a boat, but later that day, when that boat returned to the mainland, Nolan wasn't on it. His family reported him missing that night. After an extensive search involving multiple agencies, his body was found in the water near the island 2 days later. Authorities are saying they suspect drowning, but the investigation is still ongoing, so the manner and cause of his death is still undetermined. And almost immediately, I noticed the conversation switch from what happened to Nolan Wells to, well, was he drinking? Was he partying? And this is something I've noticed that stands out constantly in the media. When a young white person goes missing, the coverage tends to sound like beloved son, promising student, community devastated. But when a young black person goes missing, suddenly we're conducting a full character audit. What parties did he go to? Who was he with? Was he drinking underage? And maybe it's just me, but those don't sound like answers to the question, how did a young 18-year-old end up dead? Now, there are reports of an alleged video of Nolan and his friends arguing on the beach, which, okay, have you argued with your friends? Because I most certainly have. I've argued with friends in parking lots, on vacation, at the club. But you know what I haven't done? Left somebody stranded on an island 10 miles offshore. Especially not somebody I arrived with. Because whether the argument was about politics, relationships, who stole whose charger, whether there was no fucking argument at all, if we came together, we are leaving together. And to be clear, that doesn't mean anyone is guilty of anything, but I'm just confused as to why the media has shifted blame on Nolan and not the people he arrived on this trip with. Now, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. Asking questions is not accusing someone of something. But a young black 18-year-old was found dead after attending a trip with a group of his white friends. And there are also claims that some of these friends who accompanied Nolan on this trip deactivated their social medias immediately after. That is questionable behavior. Nolan's family deserves answers because right now there are still far more questions than there are answers. And shifting blame onto the victim does not help in any way, shape, or form.
Now, after seeing the pictures and the videos of him arguing with his friends, come on now, man. Come on now. Case closed, right? Case closed. They had his cell phone and they gave it to his mother. Are we serious? I don't know why I feel like this is like gonna be the same thing as like Carmelo Anthony. Like justice is not gonna be served, even though the evidence is like right here in our fucking faces. And mind you, I'm so sick of the racial tension in America. Like it's so exhausting at this point. Like I just want justice to be served, bro. Like this type of shit keeps happening over and over and over. And even when we have the evidence like directly in our face, one group or one type of person always seems to get the shit end of the stick. And I really am exhausted. I'm tired of the racial tension, right? Everybody has black fatigue and, you know, just every angle of it, every single angle of the racial BS in America right now I'm exhausted. And this is just like the icing on the cake, bro. I'm just hoping and praying that his family gets the justice that they deserved. And the people who did this to him, like, they need to be put under the jail. Okay. Like, this shit is very unfortunate, but it's this, the racial tension behind it. Everything about it is just exhausting. It's just exhausting, bro. I really feel bad for this dude's family. Seriously. And his friends too. Because I'm pretty sure everybody expected him to come home after this weekend, bro.
I went on a wellness retreat recently where I was the only one, and there were several moments where I seriously thought I might not make it back alive. And I was not going to tell this story, or at least not for a while, because I was still kind of like processing. But seeing the Nolan Wells story, I just feel kind of like, especially things that they were saying, like, we have no idea what happened to him. So I'm going to tell a story about what happened to me, and why these girls could have credibly stood up and said, oh, we have no idea what happened the next day. So when I booked this retreat, I knew I was going to be the only one. I often am the only one, which is why I don't think too hard about it. It's kind of just like how things have been for me for many years. I also didn't grow up in an all-Black neighborhood. I grew up in a very diverse community where there are people of all races and ethnicities, like Asians, South Asians, Jewish people, Spanish people. So it was never like a Black neighborhood. It was like everybody's neighborhood. That's why I wasn't thinking about like, oh, I'm going to be the only Black one. I just don't think about that. So I booked it, knowing it, but I was like, whatever. And part of the reason I did is because I'm thinking about getting into hosting retreats as a creator. And I was like, I'm going to kind of go and do like a little bit of market research and learning and see how this goes. So the first day was lovely. You meet all the girls. We're definitely vibing. I got a single room, which I was happy I got a single room at first because I was just like, it's my first time. I'm going to want some privacy. But I feel like that was a thing for later when we get into later in the story. So it's going to be important for later. This location is in rural Mallorca, like it's in the mountains in like northern Spain. So it's kind of like, it's not super isolated, but it's not easy to get to. And it's on a private road that cars cannot go on. So the retreat organized transportation from the airport by shuttle, and any kind of like shuttle or even most taxis, they drop you on the main road. And then you have to either like hike up a hill, which it's like on a good day, a 15-minute hike. It's a steep hike. So it's probably going to take you like 7 minutes down and then 15 minutes up. On the day of the arrival, the retreat manager, I'm not going to say her real name, the retreat manager basically was dropping the shuttle dropped us off at like the end of the main road, and she was coming down in her car to pick people up and drive them up with their luggage. So that is how we were getting back and forth from the actual villa, because it is up quite a steep hill. That's important for later. Earlier in the retreat, one of the first activities we did was go on a group hike. It was like a silent meditative hike. So we finished our morning workout and then went out on this hike. It's a downhill hike, so it was rather easy. It was early in the morning, comfortable, to one of the little villages. And on that hike, it was led by the Pilates instructor. This is a Pilates retreat. So it was led by the instructor, and joining us was one of the staff members who was creating content for the retreat. So she was in the back, the leader is in the front. I'm a slow downhill hiker. I do not like hiking downhill because I'm a very experienced hiker, and I have learned that hiking downhill is way more dangerous than uphill. That's where you're more likely to get injured. So I was taking my time going down the hill. The staff member who was with us, like leading up the back basically for content, she had recently recovered from an injury, so she was also slow. So her and I were moving at a similar pace. We paused for some content, and then the girls just completely vanished. We have no idea where they are. So we're essentially the two of us alone in this hike, and the entire group left us. And no biggie, we're together, right? But I guess in retrospect, that was kind of like red flag number one. Now, by like day 2.5, 3 of the retreat, I get struck in with what I think is food poisoning. So I spend about, like, not to be graphic, I spend about a day and a half, nearly 2 days glued to the toilet. So no one sees me. I'm not eating. I'm not keeping anything down. And then I start to realize that, like, this is not normal food poisoning. I've had it all. I've traveled the world. I've lived in other places. I'm like, this is probably like an E. coli or some kind of more dangerous bacteria, or like, it's not normal food poisoning because that doesn't last this long.
Empathy in this country isn't universal, it's rationed, and that rationing runs on a scale calibrated entirely by race. When a Black person goes missing, the first question is never, how do we find him? It's, what did he do? When a Black person is killed, the headline doesn't start with his name, it starts with his record, real or invented. We don't just get to be victims, we have to earn it. And half the time, the verdict comes back that we didn't anyway. Flip that to a white victim or a white suspect and watch the entire machinery of public sympathy switch on. Suddenly, the story isn't about what happened. It's about who they were, their potential, their smile, the scholarship they were going to get. Whatever they did, there's always a, but he's a really good kid waiting on the horizon. The 4th of July gave us the exact split screen of this in real time. Noah Xavier Wells, 18 years old, Ocean Springs, Mississippi, multi-sport athlete, goes out on a boat to Horn Island with a group of white friends to celebrate July 4th. Everybody comes back, and he doesn't. His phone turns up on the boat. He doesn't. His mother reports him missing at midnight. It takes a Coast Guard search, a park ranger, and 2 days before a body is recovered from the water. And in that 2-day gap, conversations being sparked were not, why did 4 boys leave without him? Not, who was the last person to see him alive? The questions that filled that void were, what did Nolan do? Are we sure he didn't cause a problem? Well, how did everyone else make it back? And this is after video evidence surfaced that showed the white boys arguing or having some type of altercation while Nolan, why? Nobody has explained why an 18-year-old boy was left behind on Barrier Island, but the burden of proof isn't sitting with the 4 who came home. It's sitting on the one who didn't. And this isn't new. This is a pattern we have seen time and time again. Dylan Roof walked into Mother Emanuel AME Church, sat with the Bible study for an hour, then murdered 9 black congregants in cold blood. Police took him into custody without a scratch, then stopped and bought him Burger King on the way to the station. A mass murderer got fed. Tell me what that is, if not the state extending a courtesy to whiteness that it will never extend to us. You saw it again this year with the Leak Republicans group chat. Messages full of racial slurs, jokes about gas chambers, talks of putting political enemies in the ovens about how they hate black people. The people in that chat weren't teenagers. They were state legislators, federal officials, grown-ass men in their 30s running actual campaigns. Yet J.D. Vance, the sitting vice president, went on TV and said, these are just young kids telling stupid jokes.
By focusing on what kids are saying in a group chat, grow up. I'm sorry, focus on the real issues. Don't focus on what kids say in group chat. But the reality is that kids do stupid things, especially young boys. They tell edgy, offensive jokes. Like, that's what kids do.
Now, compare that to how quickly the word thug gets slapped on a black teenager for wearing a hoodie. Compare it to how a group of black graduates dancing in a parking lot gets called chimping out in the comments, how our joy gets rebranded as ghetto culture ruining the neighborhood, while white kids doing actual property damage get the softest language in the American vocabulary. We have been meticulously socialized to understand crime through a lens that completely inverts reality. To justify the heinous systemic crimes this nation has committed against black people, it had to invent the myth of inherent black criminality. It turned the victims of structural violence into the threat, just to explain away our predicament. So when people say things like, stop committing so much crime, I have to laugh because whiteness is consistently attached to the most monstrous, horrific transgressions imaginable. Mass murder, school shootings, serial killers, raping women, pedophilia, incest, corporate executives flooding entire communities with opioids to get millions of teenagers addicted. But whiteness is granted the luxury of individuality. When they do it, it's a mental health crisis. It's an isolated anomaly. The broader white community is never asked to collectively apologize, and whiteness itself is never put on trial. They ignore their own massive ledger of interpersonal and institutional devastation just to maintain the fiction that we are the bad guys. The archetype of bad guy was never built to measure actual harm. It was designed as an ideological shield projecting society's sickness onto us so the machinery of power never has to look at its own bloodstained hands. You don't even have to reach for an historical example to see how this trick is pulled off. It just happened on 4th of July, the same news cycle of Nolan's disappearance. Newport Beach, California, one of the wealthiest zip codes in the country. On July 4th, thousands of mostly white teenagers swarmed the peninsula. They threw fireworks directly at police officers. They looted a Pavilion's grocery store, ransacked the shelves, and fought in the streets. It took 350 officers from 17 different agencies and mounted units charging on horseback just to clear the beach. More than 400 people were arrested in 36 hours. In Mississippi, a black teenager goes missing on a boat trip, and the internet's first instinct is to interrogate a boy who can no longer speak for himself. In Newport Beach, an actual mob assaults police officers and loots a grocery store. And the framing online is, kids just having fun. You've never had a wild fourth? Let them be young. Nolan didn't do anything, and he's on trial. Hundreds of white teenagers did everything on camera, with witnesses, with arrest records, and the worst word they will ever be called is rowdy. That's the difference in who America deserves the presumption of innocence, dead or alive, guilty or not. The Gilbert goons in Arizona beat a teenager to death and text message jokes about it afterwards. That case sat quiet for months. It didn't become a national story until a body was already in the ground. Compared to the long runway built under white violence before it's ever named violence, the runway we don't get before we're already named suspects. This is the whole architecture. White transgression gets individualized. It gets a name, a mother, a future, an excuse. Black existence gets generalized. It's a threat level. We have never been safe in white spaces, and we don't get to pretend that changed just because the calendar says 2026. It is not a flex to raise your black kids in rooms where they are the only one chasing a status that will never fully vouch for them that way it vouches for everyone else in that room. There are affluent black neighborhoods, black school districts, black institutions built by black people who understand exactly what I'm telling you right now. Money doesn't buy you out of the equation. It just moves you to a nicer room where the same math still runs. Nolan Wells went out on water with people who called themselves his friends. Only one of them didn't come back. And this country's first instinct was to ask what happened to him. It was to ask what he did to deserve it. That's not an accident. That's the point. That's how the machine was built, and it is running the same program since before any of us were born. The question was never if America has empathy. It's who America decided was worth it. Stay black, stay blessed, and stay safe.
If white people are on here skeptical and asking questions about the death of Nolan Xavier Wells, then we all need to pay attention. The disappearance and ultimate death of this boy does raise many questions because there are some very bizarre things in the sequence of events. They look really happy in that picture. They go off on the 4th of July to Horn Island to celebrate. The 3 white boys return, but he disappears and is found dead. They were happy to return without him? That's bizarre. They came home, didn't raise an alarm for him? Bizarre. It's only when the mother became frantic later in the evening that she called the police and the authorities. They had his phone and belongings. Bizarre. What young person in today's day and age parts with their phone? One of the boys' mother is a judge. When they get back, they are suddenly all lawyered up. Bizarre. Unless you've got something to hide, why would you do that? All of a sudden, all their media is deactivated. There is a video going viral showing that there was an altercation or an argument between Nolan and his friends. So what happened? There's another case that the black community is comparing this to of Tamla Horsford from Georgia, a woman who went for a sleepover with a whole bunch of white women. Her body was found in the backyard the next morning. Apparently, she had fallen off the balcony. It was deemed an accident. How bizarre. And this is something that happens time and time again. It's all about race and racism. It's all about black experience. So, in this case, the family will want justice, as does the entire black community. And if they don't get the transparency and the answers, then is this another case of Black lives don't matter?
So this has been really tough for me to wrap my brain around because this 18-year-old Nolan Xavier Wells disappeared while celebrating the 4th of July with his friends on Horn Island in Mississippi. After an extensive search involving multiple agencies, a body believed to be Nolan's was found in the water, and his mother later confirmed of his passing. Now, here's what we know so far. Authorities say that Nolan traveled to the island with a group of friends by boat and was last seen around 3 p.m. on July 4th. Investigators say he never made it back on the boat with the rest of the group. And one detail getting a lot of attention is that Nolan was reportedly last seen talking with a young woman on the north end of the island. At this time, authorities have not publicly identified her or said she is a suspect of any wrongdoing. Now, another question making the rounds online is whether Nolan had been in a fight before he disappeared. Right now, law enforcement has not confirmed any physical altercation before his disappearance, but we did see that video that's circulating all over. Still, no confirmation, and it's not official evidence like to support those claims or anything. We can only just see what we see, right? Then there's the phone. So, some early reports caused confusion, but Nolan's mother later clarified that his phone had already been recovered and was with the family during the search. So, the phone was not found with his body. But authorities have not said where it was originally recovered or whether it was significant to the investigation. But what teenager do you know goes around with no damn phone? Like, no, that's glued to their damn hand. At this point, investigators have not released a cause or manner of death, and many questions remain unanswered. His family has said that they have so many questions, and it's likely investigators are continuing to piece together exactly what happened that day. As always, if new facts are released by investigators, I'll keep you updated. But until then, let's avoid spreading rumors and keep Nolan's family in our thoughts. I want to know what you guys think about this because it seems all sorts of suspect, right? The friends all of a sudden come back. They lawyer up instantly. One of the friends has got like father's a judge. Like, why would you come back and lawyer up if you didn't do any wrongdoing? And we all saw some weird altercation on the beach. We couldn't confirm if that was Nolan or not, but just from what everybody else's videos and everything else that we've seen, it's like hard. And of course, why is he the only man of color? The rest are like all white, and so I'm sure he lives in a populated an area that's like that. However, and I'm not trying to use the race card here, but it always seems suspect. It was Mississippi. I don't remember what that lady's name was. There was another woman that had an adult sleepover. I don't know if you guys remember, in Mississippi, with her all white tea friends, and then just mysteriously no longer living on the front lawn of the lady's house. And then they're like, yeah, she drank too much. But then what? Because the rest of the evidence didn't line up. It looked like she had suffered some injuries. So I don't want none of that shit. I want real life of what happened to this kid. He's 18 years old. I got an 18-year-old. I got a 19-year-old. These could be my babies. And there needs to be justice. We don't get to just take away he had so much going on for him with his football career and everything else. He looks like a decent kid. I don't know him, but from what I've been reading, from what others are writing about him, seems like a good kid with a good head on his shoulders, and wrong place, wrong time. But I hope there's justice for him and for his family. Drop me a comment. What do you guys think about this? Because it's literally just insane to me.
I will never, ever, ever begrudge Black folks and folks of color for saying they do not trust white people. And a terribly upsetting example of that is what happened in Nolan Wells. He spent 4th of July weekend with 3 of his friends who he thought were friends, and they are white. He is black. And Nolan Wells died. We don't know what happened. I'm not going to speculate. That doesn't do anything for anybody. But we as white people have not given people of color, especially black folks in America, any reasons to trust us as a collective group of people. Full stop. And if you are a white person and you are bothered when black folks say they don't trust white people, think of this moment. Think of the unfortunately countless other moments in American history where white people have been instigators of violent crimes against black people. Because whether you like it or not, that is American history. It is. And you can't escape it. But we can do something to change it. And that starts with every one of us white people interrogating the white supremacist ideologies that we were raised with and our society was built upon, and it is our job to undo it. May Nolan's soul find some peace, and may his family find some justice.
Really?
The way people talk about black victims versus white victims in this country is the best example of covert racism. This is Nolan Wells. His body was found a day after he went missing on the 4th of July on the coast of Mississippi. Now, there is new information coming out about this case. I am not making any factual claims about what has happened. It is important to talk about how the media is covering this, because if a white boy goes missing, like me, for example, and they find, I'm sorry, but my body on the beach, no one's going to be going, did he stay where he should? Was he drunk? Was he starting conversations and arguments? But when Nolan goes missing, it's all about his behavior. Now there's video circulating on the internet with, I'm going to put a picture here. And people are saying that he's starting an argument in just a simple video footage. What looks to be Nolan standing there completely still when there's like 20 people surrounding him. My mom sent me a quote this morning, and it was, "If only more black men could get home to their mamas." And that's the most motherly thing my mom could see about this, is there's a family that no longer has a son. And he went out with his friends and didn't come back, and people are worried about his behavior. Where my community would be worried, wow, there's someone that would murder someone out here. We are at 250 years in this country, and we are still dealing with covert and overt racism. So what am I advocating for? We have to start meeting in the middle here. We have to start seeing each other for who they are, which is Nolan Wells is a son. Nolan Wells is a son who is no longer going to be able to go home to his mom. And people on the internet, in the news, are talking about him like he's a problem maker, like he's a troublemaker already. And that's not how it should go. We have to fight for more unity. We have to speak out for Nolan Wells and people like Nolan Wells who are constantly shined in a light as guilty. See it. I see that we can be better and do better, but it starts with conversations, and it starts with an understanding and ears open to listen. That's the big thing. We have to start listening to our neighbors. And remember,
Good morning. I wanted to hop on here and give y'all an update as far as what we know in the highly developing story of Nolan Wells as of 6:40 on July 7th. Nolan Wells is an 18-year-old who went missing from Horn Island on July 4th after being out on the boat with friends. We can confirm that he was last seen and heard from at 3 p.m., and it is to be believed that he was in the background of photos around 4:30. July 4th, multiple agencies and volunteers did help in the search for finding Nolan Wells, including local law enforcement, the United Cajun Navy, U.S. Coast Guard, Gulf Islands National Seashore. Now yesterday at around 8:45, the Gulf Islands National Seashore Park Ranger did discover a body on the north side of Horn Island. Sheriff John Ledbetter did confirm with me that that body did match the description of Nolan Wells, and his family taking this to Facebook. Nolan's mother says she wants to thank their family, friends, community, United Cajun Navy, local law enforcement, and everyone involved for all the love, support, resources over the last few days. His father, Elmore Wansley, our family, friends, and her are heartbroken and devastated. Her heart is broken for their sweet son, Nolan, who was always willing to cheer and uplift others. Nolan was a special soul, and God took his time creating their son. She asked that you give them peace and privacy as they grieve, and she wants to thank everybody again. I also made a call to Jackson County Coroner Bruce Lind, who did say that they had no reason to believe that the body that they discovered was not Nolan Wells, but that final DNA confirmation is expected to be in at some point this morning. There have been multiple GoFundMes floating around. Nolan's mom making a post that there is one official GoFundMe. This right here is the page that it was posted on. Nolan's mom reposting it, confirming that this is a GoFundMe created by a family friend that they will be using. If you do feel it in your heart to donate to this family, please visit that Facebook page and that GoFundMe link. Give what you can, but they also have said if you cannot give, they would appreciate all prayers during this absolutely heartbreaking time. I just want to state that my prayers are with Nolan's family, friends, and everyone that Nolan had an impact on, because if there's one thing that we know, it is that Nolan truly was a light to all of those around him.
Nolan Xavier Wells needs justice. So Nolan went out to Horn Island with friends on 4th of July, and these so-called friends left Nolan on Horn Island, and as of yesterday, Nolan's body was found because he was no longer alive when he was discovered. According to his friends, they left without realizing that he wasn't with them, yet they apparently had his cell phone, and all of them have now lawyered up. Now, obviously, Nolan's friend's story doesn't really add up, but I'll update y'all when more details come out as the investigation continues.
Nolan Wells wasn't killed by his friends. And this investigation just started. I mean, his body was found just yesterday. Give the investigation some time before we start hearing these crazy ass stories. And the amount of people that are saying that he was killed because he was the token black guy in his friend group is fucking insane.
Breaking news out of Ocean Springs, Mississippi, that it has been confirmed that Nolan Xavier Wells is dead. Wells is an 18-year-old black football player from Mississippi, and he went missing on July 4th during a trip with friends to Horn Island, a remote barrier island located off the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Now, it's on July 6th that a ranger found his body during the search, and it was found either near or on Horn Island itself. As of now, the authorities have not publicly announced a definitive cause of death, but online speculation abounds. Online speculation abounds. And that conversation online largely focuses on the three friends who took him to this secluded, uninhabited, cell phone accessless island. That's where lots of speculation is landing. Now, Nolan went to the island with his friends, and from the footage that has now been shared all over social media, he was the diversity. He was one of the only people of color, period, not just black, but of color, period, to be with this group of people. And he went with these friends who somehow left him there. They left him there on the island and went back to the mainland, saying that they didn't know where he was. Supposedly, he met a girl while on the island and spent time with her, and then they left. They're saying on the online reports that they assumed that he would come back with the girl, although the girl didn't bring him. That the girl, on the other hand, is saying that she left him with friends, and she assumed that he would be returning with friends. Those are the two stories that are circulating out there. Nothing definitive about what happened to him. We don't know yet the cause of death, but all this is being heavily watched and heavily covered by those of us who are committing ourselves to following this story. And as updates come in, I promise you, to you as soon as new details become available.
All right, take it as you may, believe what you want to believe, but look, more on this Nolan Wells thing on the coast. So a friend of mine seen my video earlier and reached out to me, a friend that I consider a very reliable source, trustworthy friend who has relatives on the coast and who had someone actually on the boat. So the story that I'm getting out of this deal, I'm not mentioning no names. Take that as you may. It's filtered through a couple people. So take it as you may. But what I'm hearing is that the kids have went out on a boat that had freshly been redone. So they get out on the island, and the boat actually starts taking on water. So so they're like, hey man, we got to get out of here. You know what I'm saying? We got to get back to the shore. We're going to have to be towed back, whatever. So we got to get out of here. So apparently lots of alcohol was involved in this deal with these kids, lots. And from the story that I'm hearing in this, the info that I've got, that Nolan had taken a liking to a girl down there, and that they were hanging out, hanging out, whatever you want to call it. And the friends were like, hey man, we got to go. And he's like, man, y'all go ahead. I'm going to catch another ride. And before you say, hey, the captain's responsible for everything, apparently the boat was taking on water. So it was not a normal situation. It was either that or the boat sink. So they had to go. Like I said, take it as you may. This is information that I've got. So it's making it look like that the friends actually did not premeditate. So I don't know, y'all. I'll let y'all know when I get some more information. But thanks to that source. Like I said, I'm not naming any names. But like I said, tragic deal. Prayers for the family. But like I said, any more info I get, I'll update y'all. If y'all get anything, hit me up. Y'all know what it is. Deuces.
So they found his body. They found Nolan's body, right? And they also stated that he was found along the Mississippi Gulf Coast, right? This is the same shit that happens all the time, which is crazy as fuck, y'all. They say the friend also had his phone, brought the family back his phone. How the fuck you got the man's phone and y'all don't know what happened to him? That makes no sense, bro. And then the friends are relatives with the judge. It's just so many different things that's always coinciding. It's never a fucking coincidence. Don't ever in your life think this shit is a coincidence. All of this shit is happening for a reason, you know? And they want that rage from us, like I said to y'all before, bro. They act like they so fucking clueless. But when everybody gets up and say, fuck the police, and say, fuck the FBI, and fuck all y'all, we have not shown our own, y'all gonna be mad as fuck, bro. They're willing to arrest you for solving shit that they're getting paid to do. How many fucking times have people been lynched? Are people been going outside with their fucking friends and not being found ever again? How many times is it going to keep on happening? Now you have a teenager whose life is gone. These 3 white little boys went home to their fucking families. And then brought back just his phone, no body, no story on what happened to these people's son. And he was found in y'all telling me they ain't dumped this little boy over the fucking man. And y'all seen the woman who literally was rowing with her family, right? And then they had literally stopped them and got the little black little boy when he was finna get left in the fucking water with his friends. So this shit happens over and over again, bro. And it's fucked up, man. To his family, my condolences, bro. You know, and I hope that y'all get the real justice that y'all fucking deserve. Them little boys shouldn't be walking and talking no fucking more. That's just what it is. I don't give no fuck. Y'all can't even give me no answer what happened to my son, bro, my family, bro. Hey, things are different. It's 2026. They want that raise, y'all motherfuckers gonna have to give it to him.
For the African American community, for Black American community, this is so sad. Anyway, thank you for watching Great Minds Black. See you in the next video.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Black.